Hey YouTube, Girsu here. Today I'm going to be profiling a True Draco deck for you guys. This one's a little bit different from the previous one I had posted on my channel. If you guys had seen that, that was actually kind of a nostalgic retro deck profile. This one is actually going to be something that you can take to a tournament and or just your locals and whatever and play without, obviously getting disqualified for playing banned cards. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. This deck is probably at this point tier 2.5, maybe 2, depending on how well you are versed with the deck. But yeah, this unfortunately this deck is a shell of its former self and its former glory. It breaks my heart truly, because this was one of my favorite decks of all time, and to see what it does now versus what it used to do, it's just it sucks. Honestly, the deck is not good anymore. It's just like, I mean, before you had like a legitimate win condition and everything like that, but now it's kind of just like, the only way you can win is if you get like the dumbest of hands and everything like that, and it's very inconsistent as far as like with one diagram and one terraforming, and for some reason still one dynamite, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I still play the deck on and off on Dueling Book and everything like that, which isn't very credible, but it's still, I still dabble in it. But unfortunately, every time I play it, it just aggravates me because you got these huge build-a-board decks where they can put 7 or 8 negates on the fucking board, and they got all these cards that counter everything, but you can't even have like one masterpiece. I mean, dude, I played the deck. It is not hard to out one masterpiece. I mean, yeah, they can recycle it, and yeah, maybe against certain decks you might lose game 1 because they have the one masterpiece on the field. But how often are you really going to get to masterpiece? I mean, the deck is not as consistent as it once was, and to be honest, it's yeah, that's just it. It's just not as consistent as it was, and it doesn't really do much of anything. So I think they could bring Masterpiece back to 1. I'm a little biased because I fucking love the card, but yeah. So let's get into the profile, guys. Enough rambling and ranting. So start off with the best monster. Well, the what's left of the best monsters, I should say. Dynamite, still your best single tribute guy. I really don't even know why this guy's still at 1. I mean, honestly, you can bring him back to like 3. It really wouldn't change much of anything. But yeah, he fetches your traps. You guys should all know what this guy does. He's your biggest one, and he's the second best artwork in the deck, so, of monsters. And then more or less, like, you're kind of, I don't want to say he's the best one now, but he's just like your most reliable one because I mean he's at 3. So yeah, sorry for a little darkness on this side. The lighting is a little weird, but yeah. So Triple Ignis, he's your most reliable one at this point now. I mean, fun little fact too, if you guys wanted to incorporate a Monarch's engine in this, he's got 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense, so you can actually play like cards like Tenacity of the Monarchs, and search out like the Monarch's spell and traps. You could search the Monarch's Erupt, you could search for Domain of the Monarchs, and you can even search for March of the Monarchs if you want to sort of protect your guys like Masterpiece. I don't really do that, so, but just, something you can do. Yeah, so he fetches your spells. And the last of the monsters, True Draco monsters, I should say. Triple Majesty Maiden. She fetches your monsters, so she's basically like your pseudo kind of Dragonic Diagram. Instead of being able to search for your monsters and stuff with that, now you can just more or less have to play max. That's why I maxed on her. A lot of builds only play 2. I understand why. I might even bump her down to 2 myself to make a little bit of room. But to be honest, I really don't even play the deck all that much, so I kind of just leave it at, at 3. Plus, I mean, she's pretty cool artwork as well. Every artwork in this deck is pretty sweet. So, if you guys didn't know from all my profiles, artwork plays like a huge role in how much I like a deck. So, yeah. Now, this is kind of like my little spice that I play in the deck. I'd play this over like cards like Inspector Border, or I mean even like a Mono Watto, I guess. People like still play that card in this deck, which I don't agree with that. But yeah, Triple Magician Souls. I mean, this is basically just like your replacement of consistency. I mean, the deck is composed of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 monsters. So, I mean, more or less, like, you're gonna see multiple spells and traps in your hand, and you don't even have, if you see, like, Diagram and Terraforming in your hand, you just pitch the Terraforming with Souls to draw another card. Or if you have multiples of cards like Pot of Duality in your hand, or multiples of the continuous spell or traps, pitch them away, draw 2 more, draw near Floodgates. And, yeah, that should more or less try to get you there. If you cannot afford this card, just play cards like, well, you could bump the Pot of Duality that I have up in this deck to 3, and then you could play an Upstart Goblin, bump Pot of Desires up to 3, and then whatever you want to play for your 40th card to replace the Apprentice Illusion Magician. And yeah, this card's not a brick. I don't understand why every deck really that doesn't fucking play this engine, if they want to draw cards. You know, I mean, except for obviously like super combo heavy decks and everything like that. But this card is not a brick. It's an extender. So yeah, this even in this deck, if you don't have anything more tributing, you just pitch a card, summon this, tribute over this for one of your monsters. And it's not optimal, but you know, just something that you could do. So onto the spells. For my field spells, I'll play 1 Dragonic Diagram and 1 Domain of the Monarchs. Now, if you want to, you can replace Domain of the Monarchs and put Mystic Mine in the deck. That's probably more ideal, I'd have to say, than playing Domain of the Monarchs, because it's like an auto win against decks that don't have outs to it. But yeah, this is really good as like a backup plan. It's basically like your Buster Lock of the deck. Your Buster Lock of the deck. If they like Ogre or pop Dragonic Diagram in any way, that's it. Like, you're not getting Dragonic Diagram for the rest of the game. So if you just slap down Domain of the True Monarchs, like, there you go. You just lock them out of the extra deck. So yeah, those are the only 2 field spells. Unfortunately, 1 Diagram breaks my heart. And then also 1 Terraforming, yeah, fucking sucks. So basically just running 3 field spells, more or less. So for the rest of the deck, we got triple True Draco Heritage. This card is still, you know, one of the best cards in the deck. It's your draw power. You can still draw 3 cards of this deck, like 3 cards with this card, you know, like super easy. I mean, not super easy, not as easy as it was before. I mean, all good True Draco players knew back in the day you were drawing at least 2 to 3 cards every turn off this, or you weren't playing right. So, but yeah, you can still draw 2 to 3 cards, more or less. Like, if you have a really good hand, you're drawing 3. So it's like your pseudo card demise, and then it gives you your additional tribute summon and pops spells and traps. So you still max out on the True Draco spells and traps because, you know, they're still good. And then triple Draco Phoenix. This is your Daigusto Emerald. This puts back your Dynamite Knight. Puts back your monsters and everything like that. So yeah, this is still just as good as Heritage. I love this card. So yeah, triple Draco Phoenix, and then you all know additional tribute summon pops a spell or trap when it dies. Now onto the draw power. Rest in peace. But yeah, unfortunately, the 1 card of demise. Now when you get this card, it's not even like, oh, you know, whatever, they're card of demise. Now it's like you're cheesing your opponent because you got fucking card of demise. You open the 1 up. So it's embarrassing, but yeah, I mean, you just play it. You might as well. You know, I mean, this card deserves to go to 1 long before it actually was put to 1. So, I mean, I'm not really, like, going to justify, oh, put it back to 2 or 3, because, you know, then, unfortunately, you know, even decks like Altergeist could fucking play this card. I mean, seriously, you just, I would play this on Altergeist if it was at 3. And for the rest of the draw power, you got double duality. Cut this down to when I started playing the deck online and everything. I noticed I cut it down to 2 versus in the other version of the deck where you could, if you drew 2 of them, you could pop the other one in your hand with Diagram. So now you don't have that luxury anymore, unfortunately. So yeah, double Pot of Duality. This also conflicts with Magician Souls, obviously. So if you have both of them in your hand, you're going to have to pick or choose whichever one you think is prevalent. But what I would usually do, now this is just how I play, I would summon Magician Souls and then just pitch this in my hand to draw. So it's the same thing. So that's kind of not really a drawback, but if you want to look at it that way, whatever. And then Double Desires, card still says draw 2. So yeah, you play it. Now for the traps, you got the 1 return. Again, why is this fucking card at 1? It's it's called a haunted, like, who cares? So, but Konami literally has their heads up their ass all the time, so. And then you got triple True Draco Apocalypse. This is your shrink of the deck. This is your most reliable trap now because obviously it's the only one at 3. But yeah, this is your shrink. You use it during the damage step and make your opponent scoop because they're not paying attention. Or tribute summon during your opponent's turn, pop monsters and stuff like that. So yeah, triple Apocalypse. And now for the best part of the deck. Let's go to the floodgates. So you play double Monarch's Erupt and the 1 skill drain. These are just your monster stoppers, so they're continuous traps, so they still are just as good. Unfortunately, it's not as easy to get rid of them. Not that you really want to get rid of these two at least, but maybe this one you would want to get rid of as easy with Diagram. So you can still get rid of it by attributing it away, but if you don't have access to doing that, it's going to suck, or you can send it with souls maybe. Well, actually, you can't send it with souls. What am I saying? But yeah, so you still play these. These are still just like game ender floodgates, more or less, if your opponent doesn't have immediate outs to them. And then I heard a lot of people play these, but still play the double anti-spell in the Imperial Order. I mean, why not? I mean, the whole object of the deck is basically like, just don't even let your opponent play, because if your opponent plays, like, you're gonna lose. So this isn't like before, I mean, where you could you can hold off your opponent with your consistency cards, your Diagram, pop your spells and traps, pop their cards. Now you don't have the luxury of doing that as much anymore. So unfortunately, you're just going to have to stop them from playing, period. So yeah, it's kind of like a shitty way to play. But yeah, so, you got your spell stoppers. And I wish this card was actually out, like, back when the deck was in its prime, but triple there could be only one. This card is actually super fucking crazy. Shit's on Salad, shit's on fucking Rock, shit's on fucking Eldritch, Synchro, shit's on every deck basically if they don't have an out to this card. So yeah, basically just like, yeah, you're not controlling anything but one type of monster. So yeah, there can be only one. Like I said, I wish this card was out back in the day when True Draco was out, because it's basically like Vanity's Emptiness to a certain degree. I mean, not obviously exactly like it, but, yeah. Triple there can be only one. Definitely a really good floodgate. And for some interruption, last year continuous spells, I played triple Crackdown. I mean, this card kind of like fell off the face of the planet, but, it's still pretty good. Take into consideration, I mean, I doubt your opponent is going to be playing Worms, but, if you have Magician Souls on the field, the only way you're going to get Magician Souls off your field is if you tribute it, pop it with Diagram, pop it with one of your trap cards, or your opponent destroys it. So you can't play an extra deck in this because you play the Monarch's Erupt. So you're not going to link it away for Link Rebo. But so if your controls a spellcaster monster, you can't take their spellcaster, which I could be wrong on that ruling. I've actually seen some people say that you can take a monster with Crackdown. Like if you have Magician Souls, you take a spellcaster and then you just send their spellcaster to the grave. I don't know if that's a legal play. I don't know if you'd even be allowed to target their spellcaster and attempt to take it, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't really care. But if you do know the answer, I guess just let me know in the comments below. But yeah, this is one of your best interruptions. You just take their Needle Fiber, take anything. So yeah, Crackdown. Definitely one of the better trap cards in the deck. And for the last 3, play the best trap card in the meta now, Infinite Impermanence. Just, it's basically a Power Corrupt Effect Veiler, and you can't play hand traps in this deck. I mean, you can, now the Card of Demise is like at 1, but I mean, you just don't. You just set a bunch of cards. So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm not super enthusiastic about this deck. I'm more or less doing it for the sake of the channel, to get, people out there that want to know how to actually play the deck, not, the illegal way to play it. But this deck is just like, it breaks my fucking heart, man. Like, this was my favorite deck of all time. That doesn't involve the extra deck, and, it's a shell of its former self. So, but yeah, sorry if I'm being a little bitch. But yeah, so yeah, that is the deck. 40 cards. You want to keep it as consistent as possible. Like I said, I mean, don't take my rants and raves as you shouldn't play the deck, because by all means, if you want to play the deck to your heart's content. I mean, I even play it from time to time too, so, don't get me wrong, it's still a fun deck to play. It's still fun to lock your opponent out, but unfortunately, there's just better decks now if you want to do stuff like that. So, but yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. If we can get to 100 subscribers by the end of, what's the next month? July? That would be fucking awesome. So, yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate everyone who watches my videos. Shout out to my friends Kyle and Sam. I test with them all the time. They're on the channel all the time. And shout out to everybody who watches and likes and subscribes. So, thank you so much, guys. Girsu out.